Adora has been friends with Catra ever since they were very young. They grew up together and they lived together, but Adora always received more praise than Catra, which made Catra feel lonely and isolated. Instead of directing all her anger at her abusive environment, Catra directs a lot of it at Adora herself. And because of this, they start to grow apart over time, especially after Adora turns toward the light. Adora wants Catra on her side, and she always has. She cares about Catra, she wants what's best for Catra, and eventually she realizes that she loves Catra. This love is what keeps her coming back to Catra, even after Catra betrays her again and again. We might disagree with Adora's actions. Is it good to keep coming back to someone who keeps betraying you? Maybe not. How many chances do you give someone before you realize there really isn't any hope for them? If you're harsh and if you're unempathetic, you can lose relationships with people you really care about just because you weren't willing to give them another chance. But if you're too lenient, you open yourself up to people taking advantage of your generosity. So where's the balance? But we also have to remember that we are discussing real, actual human beings here. Well, I mean, Adora's kind of an alien, and Catra's definitely would not be considered a human being, but those are just technicalities. What I mean is that they are real living beings, not math problems. Adora does not write down a complicated series of moral calculations in order to determine how she should treat Catra. She doesn't determine it rationally. She can't. Personal connections get in the way. If it had just been an ordinary person who betrayed her, Adora probably would not have given her a second chance. Certainly, Adora would not have given her a third chance or a fourth chance. And it is true that Adora finally decides to stop giving Catra more chances. She decides saving Catra might not be worth it, and Catra realizes that she's losing Adora, that Adora won't keep coming back for her, and this is what impels Catra to finally make the changes in her life that she needs to make, to finally reevaluate her life and come out better on the other side. Come out better as a more thoughtful and more empathetic and more considerate person. But even the fact that Catra was given so many chances in the first place by Adora is very telling. When we do moral calculations, we like to pretend that personal relationships don't matter, or that they at least shouldn't matter, and we should be able to set them aside, but that is simply preposterous. It should be evident that we can't always remove personal relationships from the equation. Our brains aren't wired like that. But I'd like to argue that also we shouldn't. If we're so concerned about what is right on a larger and more abstract scale that we neglect our bonds with the people who care about us, our friends, family, anyone who's close to us, we risk isolating ourselves. We risk being left with absolutely no one. What doesn't matter if you're right in the abstract if the choices you make leave you lonely and miserable and with no one to help you? If some supernatural force came down and asked you to kill one person in order to save the entire world, I think most of us would do that. Now, I don't want to overgeneralize. There might be some hardcore deontologists among us who wouldn't, and who would think the idea of choosing to kill someone is such a vile action that nothing can justify it. But I don't think I'm being ridiculous when I assert that in that situation, most of us would choose to kill that one random person. But what if we know that person? What if we're close to that person? What if we have this long existing relationship, romantic or otherwise, with that person? Perhaps it's selfish to say that you would consider that. Perhaps it's selfish to say that I care about this one person so much that I factor them into this grandiose moral quandary. But again, we don't live in this abstract world of moral calculations and diagrams and math problems. We live in the real world, the world of feelings and emotions and sensations. Human beings, human thought, and human feelings. Adora's relationship with Catra is strong enough that she's willing to keep giving Catra chances long past the point when a disinterested observer would perhaps say, hey, Catra doesn't deserve any more chances. Now, that passionate love is a significant part of their relationship, but it's not the only part. Why does Adora keep coming back to Catra? It's not like Adora is lonely. Catra is in a totally different situation. Who does Catra have other than Adora? Really? Who does she have that she can actually count on and spill herself and her feelings and her ideals out to? No one. She's just lonely and drifting through existence without any real sense of direction. Her desire to come back to Adora, thus, and transform her entire self and her entire set of beliefs so that she can help Adora and be accepted by Adora, is understandable. But from Adora's perspective, it's not quite as understandable. How does it benefit Adora to keep coming back to Catra? Adora has a very strong support network. She has a lot of people who really care about her. So what is her incentive for continuing to go back to Catra? Other than, of course, the passionate love between them, which of course you can't take out of the equation or reduce down to mathematical principles. Even aside from that love, I'd argue there is a part of Adora that she knows no one can understand except Catra. They were together growing up. They have a lot of the same experiences in the past. Adora has tried to move past those experiences, as they weren't all positive, but they still exist. They're still a part of her, and Catra understands that. There is little for Adora that is worthwhile about her past, but Catra is still there. If Adora wants to reconcile her present with her past, become a fully formed person, she has to try and reconcile with Catra. The thought of Catra being worth saving is what drives Adora, and it's a major reason why this show is as captivating as it is. What makes it exceptional? The villains? Definitely not. I mean, I wouldn't say they're terrible villains. They're adequate, but they're not the main draw of the show. I have not really heard a lot of people clamoring for episodes focusing on the backstories of these villains. And of course not. Of course there's no such clamoring. These characters aren't as interesting as Catra and Adora. Catra and Adora are the heart and soul of the show. These are two people who love each other. They really do. Even though they're not willing to admit that to themselves at first, and they are certainly reluctant to admit it to each other. But they keep striving. They keep driving toward that connection, even when it is at loggerheads with their personal goals. Now, Catra's love for Adora is easy for us, the audience, to understand, even if it's hard for Catra to square with herself and her own beliefs and ideals. Adora's love for Catra, however, is more troubling. If I were one of Adora's friends, I would probably have urged her to cut ties with Catra around the second or third time that Catra betrays Adora. But Adora never loses hope in Catra. The bond between them is too strong. They have too much history together. Even when Adora finally decides to stop giving Catra more chances, her heart is still caring about Catra. Her mind is still on Catra. She can't cut out that relationship entirely. It is true that Adora and Catra work together well. Season 5 demonstrates how they complement each other on a team. Adora is more bold and courageous and the traditional leader, whereas Catra is more strategic and stealthy and thoughtful. But there's even more at play than that. Adora's other friends and confidants care about her deeply, but they also rely on her. They depend on her to lead them. They see her as a hero. Catra's bond with Adora is much older than that, and much deeper than that. Catra cares about Adora completely outside of Adora's role as this hero bringing justice to the galaxy. Catra's love for her, when she finally admits it, is unpretentious and unqualified. She loves Adora for Adora's sake, and Adora reciprocates that affection. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching She-Ra. It's a great show, and if Noelle Stevenson ever decides to return to it, I'd be more than happy. Now, going forward, I am not entirely sure what I will do with this channel. When the pandemic is over and things finally start being released again, I'll have a whole lot to say, and I'll keep you up to date with the latest developments. But until then, I think I'll just talk more about the relationships between a lot of these characters. There's a lot of really interesting things to say there. So anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon-ish. I promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.